Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to talk about my misdiagnosis of Lyme's disease. But before I get started, and before I forget, go ahead and like and subscribe if you will, and also leave a comment when the video is done to tell me your experience and different stuff that you're going through right now. So kind of where we are in my story is this was early 2016. I had been experiencing terrible symptoms. I went to a rheumatologist and kind of had a bad experience where she didn't really tell me that I had anything other than rheumatic fever, and she put me on steroids, Plaquenil, and increased my dose of Lodine. So I was a bit disillusioned by the whole medical practice anyway, and so I decided to go to a chiropractor like all good natural little girls do. So I went to a chiropractor and I told her my symptoms and everything like that, and I also told her that me and my husband at the time, he was my husband at that point, because when the new year switched over, all my medications were so expensive that we went ahead and got married so that I could get on his insurance. I told her that I would like to get off my medication so that my husband and I could start trying to have a baby. So she said, okay, sounds good. She gave me this list of herbal supplements that I could take with no harm to any pregnancy. And she told me that, she was not a medical professional, so she couldn't actually tell me to get off my medication, but she thought I'd be fine. So in that first appointment, she said, what about Lyme's disease? And I said, what about Lyme's disease? Doesn't that come from ticks or something? And she said, well, yes, it can. It can also be transferred from person to person. And it can also be something you inherit generationally. So I had never heard this about Lyme's disease before. And she was very informative on the topic. And so I decided just to go get a blood test just to make sure. And so I went to urgent care again because I did not have a primary care physician at all yet. And so I went and they said that I did not have Lyme's disease, but it looked like I may have had it in the past. And that was all my chiropractor needed to tell me that I had Lyme's disease. I needed to do this, and that in order to treat it. And I was I kind of took it with a grain of salt, like, okay, that is what you believe, that's fine. But again, I started researching it. And this is a topic that I've honestly been dreading making this video because it is very personal to a lot of people who do believe that they have Lyme's disease. And I'm not here to say that they don't. I'm just here to say that I did not. And I did believe that I did because of my experiences. So I started researching it, and it was a lot of, all natural people kind of poo-pooing the medical field, saying that they don't know how to treat Lyme's disease and they want to keep you sick so that they make more money. Kind of tale as old as time with these two polarities of treatment. And so during this time, I took a few days off work. Where I was I just started grad school. I was working a new job full-time, and I was also planning a wedding that was coming up in a few months. And I got 2 weeks into grad school and I realized that I really couldn't hack it. Like, my health was just too bad. So I deferred it a year. So I would start the following January. And so during this time, I went home to visit my parents, and they told me about this amazing all-natural doctor that they go to. And they said, she could see things in, it's called Iridology, where you look in a person's eye and you see a map of their health. And she said, my mom said she could see something that happened to me when I was 5 years old. And, it was my dad, the same thing. Like, he had something that was hurting and he just said that she could see it, and it was absolutely amazing. And so I was like, yeah, I'll go. And so I went to this doctor, and she was not actually a doctor. I believe her formal title is natural health consultant or something similar like that. And so I went to her, and she looked into my eye, and iridology was something that I was somewhat familiar with because my parents had gone to one before in the past. So it was kind of like a chiropractor, where it was like, I didn't know how much I personally bought it, but what the heck, let's go for it. So I went to her, and she told me that, yes, I indeed did have Lyme's disease. And she told me that my medications were masking the symptoms of Lyme's disease, and I really needed to treat them at the root first. And so she told me that they were a parasite, and I needed to take all these medications and teas and different things like that to cure it. And that's the thing with a lot of autoimmune diseases, there is no cure. There's only remission. And so I feel like a lot of people want the diagnosis of Lyme's disease more because there is a cure. Or at least that is what the all-natural community says. Once you get rid of all the corkscrew-like parasites that get into your bloodstream and into your cells, then it can be cured. So I don't know how much of that is true. I did not have Lyme's disease, and there are a lot of people that swear up and down that their separate sides are true. So I spent $500 in that appointment, both for her consultation and for all the new herbs and stuff that I was supposed to start taking. So this was getting close to the time where I where my wedding was going to happen. My wedding was going to happen in April that year. And so I was like, how great would it be if I could get off all my medications before I got married? So a couple of them I quit cold turkey. I quit the hydroxychloroquine cold turkey. I also tapered off the steroids safely, but I definitely wasn't taking them anymore. And I started weaning off the Lodine. The Lodine, however, as you remember, is the anti-inflammatory and the painkiller, which I was so addicted to. And so I actually, as I got off the Lodine, I couldn't hack it, and so I upped the ibuprofen, which on, I guess, pharmaceutical level, they're pretty much the same thing. And so I probably did a significant amount of damage that time with how much ibuprofen that I was taking. And so I was just so gung-ho about this Lyme's disease thing. And during that time, I had some issues at work, and I ended up quitting my job. And there were just a lot of different things during that time that I wasn't comfortable with the company. And I did want to focus on my health more. And so it was just kind of like, okay, this is the universe saying to me it's time. And so I had 6 weeks between quitting my job and my wedding. And so I was going to take that time to kind of figure out my health, plan the whole wedding. It was going to be fine. And then I would get a job after my wedding. And so during this time, my husband and I actually got pregnant, and we had an almost immediate miscarriage. And after that was the wedding, and so I went through it. And at that point, I was in so much pain. It was hard for me to walk. It was hard for me to pick up anything. It was hard for me to type. Just anything where my joints had to be at an angle other than perfectly straight was extremely hard and extremely painful for me. And so because of that, the day before my wedding, I got back on Lodine, and I also got back on steroids. At this point, it was just stuff that I had left over, and I got back on 40 milligrams of prednisone. And then the day I got married, I stayed on 40 milligrams of prednisone. Excuse me. And then that whole weekend was absolutely great. I was pain-free for the first time in months. I felt so good. Nobody could tell I was in pain because I wasn't at my wedding. And it was just a really great time. However, as I got off of that, you're supposed to taper off steroids, and I did not. And so I just thought, okay, well, 40 was great. I'm just going to get off of them immediately. And so I got off of that, had a significant crash where I didn't feel like I was able to get out of bed. All my joints hurt. I had terrible headaches. The lethargy was extreme. And my honeymoon was actually my first time being off all medication. And I was exhausted the whole time. I definitely just wanted to stay in bed the whole time, and not for like the normal good honeymoon reasons. Definitely just wanted to sleep. Had absolutely zero energy. And this whole time I really did believe that I had Lyme's disease. And so the medication was just masking the actual thing and not actually helping me and curing me. And so, that was kind of where I found myself for the rest of the year, just getting extremely worse and worse and worse, to the point where I could go grocery shopping, and that was what I did for the day. Like, I didn't make dinner on the same days that I went grocery shopping. And that brought me all the way up until September, where I was to the point where I had lost a significant amount of weight. I think I had lost 20 pounds at that point. And my hair, I had about 50% of my hair left. And I was just tired. I couldn't think straight. I couldn't do anything very well. And it was a pretty intense time for me. So that is the video on my misdiagnosis of Lyme's disease. If you didn't before, go ahead and like and subscribe, and leave a comment. Tell me how you're doing. I hope you have a wonderful, pain-free day. Talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.